The royal hall of the Varan Empire was one of the most beautiful places in the galaxy. Tall silver pillars stood like quiet giants. Blue lights floated in the air, moving softly like tiny stars. The hall could hold more than 1,000 guests. It had hosted great leaders, royal families, Kea, and galaxy-wide celebrations for centuries. But today, it was almost silent. Princess Lyra sat alone on a long crystal seat placed in the center of the hall. Her dress was a soft white color that glowed under the lights. Her eyes kept looking toward the giant doors where guests should have entered hours ago. Not a single one had shown up. The royal celebration was supposed to be the most important event of her life. It was the day she would be announced as the future ruler of her people. It should have been filled with music, voices, and joy. But instead, the hall looked like a forgotten place. Lyra slowly tightened her hands in her lap. She was trained to stay calm, but her heart felt heavy. She had prepared for this day for months. She had practiced speeches. She had selected every decoration. She had tried to be perfect for her people. And still, no one came. She could hear whispers behind the walls. Members of the royal council were hiding in the side chambers, pretending to observe. They did not come out to support her. They only wanted to see if she would fail. Lyra knew this, and it hurt more than the empty hall. She forced herself to breathe slowly. "Maybe someone is late," she whispered, even though she knew the truth. The entire empire had quietly rejected her. They believed she was too weak, too soft, unfit to rule. Some even said she was cursed. A faint echo broke the silence. It was the sound of footsteps. Slow, steady, unfamiliar. Lyra looked toward the entrance. The guards standing near the doorway lifted their weapons. Their expressions changed from confusion to fear. Someone was approaching the celebration. Someone not invited. The doors opened with a soft hiss. An alone figure stepped inside, a human. He walked with calm steps, not too fast, not too slow. His clothing was simple: dark boots, a long jacket, and a hood resting on his shoulders. His eyes were sharp and quiet. He did not look afraid of the huge hall or the staring guards. He simply walked forward as if he belonged there. The guards moved closer, confused. Why would a human step into the royal hall during a private ceremony? Humans were rare here. Their kind did not mix often with the Varan Empire, and no human would dare walk into a royal event alone, but this one did. Princess Lyra felt her heart jump. She had never seen a human this close. Their stories said humans were strange, bold, and unpredictable. Some called them dangerous. Others called them loyal. No one really understood them. The human stopped at the center of the hall. His eyes met hers. He offered a small nod, calm and gentle. Then something unbelievable happened. He walked to her side and sat beside her on the long crystal seat. The guards froze. The council members gasped behind the walls. Even the floating lights flickered as if shocked. No alien dared to sit next to the princess on this day. Many did not even want to be seen with her. Yet a human, someone from another world, took a seat right next to her without a second thought. Lyra did not know what to say. She stared at him with wide eyes. "Why? Why are you here?" she asked quietly. The human did not answer at once. His eyes moved around the hall, studying the empty chairs and silent decorations. He finally spoke in a calm voice. "I saw someone sitting alone." His words were simple, but they felt heavy, powerful. No one in the entire empire sat with her. No one came for her. But this stranger did, without fear or hesitation. Lyra breathed slowly. Something inside her chest felt warm for the first time that day. She wanted to ask more questions, but before she could speak, she sensed something strange. The lights in the hall flickered again, this time sharper. A small noise came from one of the security sensors high on the wall, then another. A red light flashed for half a second before returning to normal. The human's eyes narrowed. "What is wrong?" Lyra asked. He did not answer, but she could see he noticed something dangerous. He looked toward the upper balcony, then toward the main exit. He was silently measuring the room, step by step. Without moving from his seat, Lyra felt a cold wave run down her back. "Do you sense danger?" she whispered. He turned his head toward her. His voice remained low and calm. "Someone is watching." Her eyes widened. "Watching me?" He gave a small nod, and not for a good reason. Lyra's breath caught. The celebration was not empty by accident. Something darker was happening. Something the council did not want her to see. Something the human clearly understood before anyone else. She stared at the silent royal hall, and for the first time, she realized she was not simply abandoned. She was being targeted, and the only one sitting beside her was a quiet human stranger whose reasons were still unknown. Asterisk, the princess and the silent human Princess Lyra sat very still beside the human. Her heart beating faster than before, the empty royal hall felt colder now, as if the air itself knew something dangerous was coming. She looked at the human again, trying to understand him, trying to understand why he was here. He did not look like a soldier, yet he sat with the confidence of someone who understood fear far better than others. He looked calm, but his eyes kept watching the doors, the walls, and the shadows. It was clear he was not here by accident. "Who are you?" Lyra asked softly, her voice shaking a little. The human turned his head slightly toward her, his expression calm and unreadable. "My name is Ethan," he answered. "I came here because you should not be alone." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest again. But it lasted only a moment. Another soft click echoed from above, a sound that did not belong in the hall. Ethan heard it too, and his eyes narrowed with silent focus. Princess Lyra followed his gaze and saw a small device attached behind one of the balcony pillars. It was blinking red for half a second every few moments, so faint that most people would not notice it. That is not a palace device," Lyra whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. "It is not." Lyra felt a cold fear growing inside her. "Why would someone place something like that here?" she asked. Ethan looked at the empty hall with a deep seriousness. "Because someone wanted this hall to be empty." Lyra froze. She had been telling herself that no one came because they did not like her, because she was weak, because her people did not trust her. But now she wondered if there was something more, something much darker. Ethan leaned slightly forward and spoke in a low voice. "Humans monitor certain communication lines across the galaxy." Lyra blinked in surprise. "Why?" Ethan answered without hesitation, "Because we do not trust empires that lie." Her breath caught. Humans were known for being quiet, unpredictable, and extremely careful with secrets. Some said Earth saw everything, even things they were not supposed to see. Lyra swallowed nervously. Did Earth hear something about me? Ethan looked at her, his eyes steady. A coded message was sent from inside this palace. Lyra felt her heart stop. "What message?" "A request," Ethan said. "A request to remove you." Lyra's blood ran cold. Remove her? Destroy her position? End her future? Was that why the hall was empty today? Was this celebration only a setup for something cruel? "Aye," Lyra whispered, unable to breathe for a moment. "You are saying someone inside my own palace wants me gone?" Ethan did not soften his answer. Yes, the princess felt her hands tremble. She had always felt disliked, but she never thought someone might try to remove her completely. Her sadness slowly turned into fear, and fear slowly turned into anger before she could speak. Another soft sound echoed from the far end of the hall. A faint mechanical click, quieter than a whisper. Ethan immediately turned his head toward the noise. He stood up slowly, his body shifting like a trained fighter preparing for trouble. Lyra stood as well, though her legs felt weak. "Is something happening?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan replied. "Your celebration was not meant to have guests." He paused and looked into her eyes. It was meant to have a target. Lyra felt as if all the air had disappeared from the hall. A target. She was the target. Ethan stepped slightly in front of her, protecting her without even thinking about it. The princess noticed that small movement, and it made her chest tighten. Why was this human protecting her so naturally? Why would someone from another world care more than her own council? Ethan pointed toward the upper balconies. "There are hidden watchers there," he said. "Their devices are scanning you." Lyra looked up and saw tiny flashes of red and blue reflected against the metal beams. She had never noticed them before. No one had told her about them? Are they dangerous? She asked quietly. Ethan nodded. Yes. Lyra felt tears touch her eyes. But she blinked them away quickly. She could not be weak now. Not when someone from another world was standing up for her. What do they want? She asked. Ethan answered without emotion. To remove you from the throne before you even have a chance to claim it. The princess grabbed the back of the crystal seat to steady herself. How long have they planned this? Months, Ethan replied. Maybe longer. Lyra felt anger rising like fire in her chest. Her own people, her own court, had planned this behind her back. They had let her believe she was unloved. They had let her believe she was alone. But the truth was far worse. They wanted her gone. Ethan suddenly raised a hand, signaling her to stay quiet. Footsteps echoed from behind the massive doors. Slow and heavy. More than one person was approaching. The guards at the entrance lifted their weapons again. But they looked unsure, afraid. This was not a normal moment. This was not part of any royal tradition. Ethan stepped even closer to Lyra, shielding her lightly with his shoulder. Stay behind me, he said calmly. Lyra nodded, trusting him more in this moment than she had trusted anyone in her life. The doors began to open with a deep metallic groan. The hall filled with cold air as several dark figures entered. Their uniforms were not royal, not friendly, not safe. Lyra felt her breath stop. Ethan whispered one last warning. They are here for you, and the hall, once silent and empty, now felt like the center of a growing storm. A secret the galaxy tried to hide. The dark figures stepped fully into the royal hall, their boots hitting the silver floor with heavy echoes. Princess Lyra felt her heart sink as she recognized their uniforms. They were from the Palace Security Division. But not the loyal one. These were the Internal Enforcement Guards, a secret group that served only the highest members of the Royal Council. They never appeared in public, and they never acted without a hidden order. Ethan watched them with calm eyes. His body slightly in front of Lyra, he did not move fast. But every small shift in his position felt controlled. Trained and ready, the guards scanned the hall with cold expressions, their helmets hiding their faces. One of them finally spoke, Princess Lyra. Please step forward. Lyra froze, her hand shaking. I thought this event was canceled, she said carefully. The guard's tone remained flat. There has been a change in the plan. Ethan stepped half a foot closer to her, placing himself between her and them. And what plan is that? He asked softly. His voice was calm, but the hall felt like it was holding its breath. The lead guard stared at him, confused and irritated. This matter does not concern humans, he replied. Move aside and let us take the princess. Lyra felt fear spread through her chest like ice. Take her, not escort her, not guide her. Take her. No, Ethan said simply. The word echoed through the hall, sharp and clear. The guards did not expect resistance, especially not from a human. Their weapons hummed lightly as they powered on, glowing with blue and green energy. You are interfering in royal matters, the guard warned. Stand down. Ethan did not move. Instead, he slowly reached into his coat and touched a small device on his wrist. Princess Lyra saw it glow faintly, almost invisible. But she felt something change in the air. The lights flickered, the ground vibrated, and every hidden device in the hall made a soft electronic gasp, as if losing power. What did you do? Lyra whispered. Ethan kept his eyes on the guards. Just leveling the field, the guards aimed their weapons. But suddenly, every gun sparked and shut down. Their power cells blinked red, then died completely. Shock filled the guards' movements as they stared at their now useless weapons. What is happening? One shouted. Who disabled our systems? Another demanded. Ethan finally spoke. You planned this betrayal with the council. Lyra's blood turned cold. The guards froze, unable to deny it. Ethan continued. Earth intercepted your messages weeks ago. Lyra gasped softly. So you knew all along. Ethan nodded very slightly. We know your council wants to remove you. Lyra felt a painful twist in her chest. Her own people, her own leaders, had worked to destroy her future. but a human, someone she had never met. Knew the truth before she did, the guards recovered quickly from their shock. Without their weapons, they moved into combat stances. Preparing to take Lyra by force, Princess? Come with us, or we will use other methods, the lead guard growled. Ethan took one step forward, his stance calm but unshakable. You will not touch her, he said. His voice was still quiet, but it held a sharp warning. The guards charged toward them, trying to overpower Ethan and grab Lyra. Lyra's breath caught, but before she could react, Ethan moved. He did not move like a soldier or a guard. He moved like a storm. Precise and silent, he stepped to the side, grabbed one guard's wrist, and twisted it, sending the man crashing to the floor without a sound. Another guard swung at him, but Ethan ducked, swept his leg, and dropped him instantly. The third tried to grab Lyra, but Ethan appeared between them like a shadow. He struck once with his open hand, and the guard fell backward. Gasping for air, Lyra stood frozen. Shocked by his skill, he fought without anger, without noise, without fear, as if he had trained for moments exactly like this, as if protecting someone was a natural part of him. Within seconds, all the guards lay on the ground. Groaning and defeated, Ethan looked at Lyra, his breathing steady. We need to leave this hall, he said. The council will not stop here, Lyra nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. Why? Why are they doing this? She whispered. She did not want to ask the question, but she needed the answer. Ethan hesitated for the first time since arriving. It was a small hesitation, but it showed the truth would hurt. They fear you, he said. Lyra shook her head. Fear me? Why? Ethan met her eyes with a steady look. Because they cannot control you, her breath trembled. She had always tried to be kind, patient, loyal. She never knew her kindness threatened powerful people. Ethan continued, Your council wants a ruler they can command. Someone who obeys them, someone who stays silent. He paused. But you are not silent. Lyra felt tears rise again. But this time not from sadness, from anger, from truth, from betrayal. The galaxy has secrets they want to hide, Ethan said, and you are one of the biggest threats to their plans. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling a fire grow inside her chest. For the first time, she understood something. Her life was not small, her position was not weak, her voice was not unwanted. They feared her because she mattered. Ethan gently touched her arm, guiding her toward a side exit, Princess. This is bigger than your celebration, he said. This is about power, control, and truth. His voice lowered. And someone didn't want you to learn it. Lyra stepped beside him. No longer feeling alone, for the first time in her life, someone stood with her, not for power, not for position, but because he believed she deserved to stand. And with every step she took, she felt a new strength growing inside her. She was ready to learn the truth the galaxy tried to hide, even if it changed everything. The ambush in the palace shadows. Princess Lyra followed Ethan through a narrow side corridor that led away from the royal hall. The lights above flickered softly. As if the entire palace was holding its breath, her footsteps were light, but her heart felt heavy with fear and confusion. The betrayal was deeper than she had ever imagined. The council, the guards, even the palace she had grown up in, all had turned against her, yet beside her walked a quiet human who moved like he knew every danger before it arrived. He kept his eyes scanning every corner, every shadow, every ceiling beam. His calmness made her feel safer, even in this dark moment. Where are we going? Lyra whispered. Ethan spoke without stopping. A safer place. The palace is not secure for you anymore. They reached the end of the corridor, where a large door slid open slowly. The room behind it was dimly lit. Filled with old tapestries and forgotten royal decorations, Lyra realized it was one of the old storage chambers used long ago by her ancestors. No one came here anymore, which made it the perfect hiding place. Ethan stepped inside first, checking every shadow, every corner, when he was sure it was safe. He motioned for Lyra to enter. She did, her hands trembling slightly. Ethan. Why did you really come here? She asked, her voice quiet but firm. He turned to her with serious eyes. Because Earth could not watch your empire destroy you in silence. Lyra gasped softly. You cared. Ethan nodded. Humans care in ways others do not understand. When someone is being wronged, we act. Before she could reply, a sudden loud crash echoed through the corridor behind them. The door they had just used slammed shut with a violent force. Lyra's heart jumped. Footsteps filled the corridor. Dozens of them, rushing, coordinated, dangerous. Ethan grabbed her wrist and pulled her gently but quickly behind an old pillar. Stay quiet, he whispered. The footsteps stopped right outside the door of the chamber. A metallic tool hit the control panel, sparks flying as someone tried to break the lock. Lyra looked up at Ethan with fear in her eyes. How do they know we are here? She whispered. Ethan replied softly. Because the council knows every secret path in this palace. They knew where we would run. The door finally cracked open, and several dark uniformed guards stepped inside. These were not normal guards. Their armor was heavier, their helmets marked with blood-red stripes. They were the elite strike unit of the council, and their orders were clear. Capture the princess, remove the human, silence all witnesses. Lyra covered her mouth to stop her breath from shaking. Ethan crouched low, preparing himself. His eyes locked on the guards, calculating their movements. He whispered to her, when I move, stay behind me. Do not run alone. The guards scanned the room with glowing visors, their weapons humming softly even though Ethan had disabled the palace's main systems earlier. These weapons were powered by their own batteries, made for situations exactly like this. One guard stepped closer. We know you are here. Princess, he said in a cold voice, step forward, and your death will be painless. Lyra shook from head to toe. But Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. His touch was calm. Grounding, strong, he stood up slowly, revealing himself behind the pillar, but he did not raise his hands. He only stared at the guards with cold human focus. There is no princess here, Ethan said quietly. Only me. The guards paused, confused, then angry. Human, their leader growled. Move aside or die. Ethan smiled very faintly. I don't die easily. The next moment happened in a blur. The guards opened fire, bright energy beams flashing through the dark chamber. Ethan grabbed Lyra and pulled her down, rolling behind a stack of metal crates. The beams missed them by inches, exploding against the walls. Sending dust and sparks into the air, the noise was overwhelming. But Ethan moved like water, smooth and fast. He pressed another device on his wrist. In a faint, shimmering shield formed around them, the energy beams hit it. Bending and scattering like waves hitting stone, Lyra stared at him with wide eyes. What is that? Human technology? He replied simply. We come prepared, but the shield would not hold forever. It flickered harder with each hit. The guards moved closer, confident that their numbers would overpower him. Ethan looked at Lyra, his voice low and steady. I need you to trust me, I already do, she whispered. Her voice shaking but sincere, he nodded. Then stay behind me, no matter what happens. Ethan stood up in one smooth motion. He moved toward the guards with quiet, deadly precision. He dodged the first blast, grabbed one guard's arm, and slammed him into another. The remaining guards tried to flank him. But Ethan moved faster, striking, twisting, pushing them down one by one. Lyra watched in awe, unable to look away. Humans were always spoken about with caution in her empire, but now she understood why. They were not just strong. They were impossible to stop when they chose to protect someone. Within moments, the last guard fell unconscious. The chamber was filled with heavy breathing, smoke, and silence. Ethan turned to Lyra, his voice steady even after the fight. We need to go. More will come, Lyra nodded. Her fear replaced by something new, trust, gratitude, and the first spark of courage she had ever felt. She stepped beside him, matching his pace. No longer a helpless princess, but someone ready to fight for her life and her future. Together, they ran deeper into the palace shadows, not knowing what waited for them, but knowing they would face it side by side. Asterisk, when a human stands beside you, The galaxy watches Princess Lyra and Ethan moved quickly through the back passages of the palace. The halls were narrow and old, filled with dust and memories of rulers long forgotten. Lyra's heart raced, but she no longer felt weak. With Ethan beside her, every step felt stronger. She was not running from danger anymore. She was running toward the truth. Ethan guided her with sure footsteps. He knew the palace better than someone who had never been here. Lyra noticed it and finally asked, "How do you know these paths?" Ethan replied softly. "Humans study things before stepping into danger. Your palace maps were leaked during the coded transmissions. We learned everything." They reached a small control room hidden beneath the East Tower. The door slid open, revealing a glowing screen that displayed the palace layout. Red dots marked moving guards, blue dots marked security systems. A large cluster of red surrounded the main council chamber. "They are waiting for me there," Lyra whispered. Ethan nodded. "Yes, because they think they have already won." He tapped the screen and zoomed in on a hidden tunnel that led straight to the council hall. "That is our path," he said. Lyra felt fear, but also determination. "What happens when we get there?" she asked. Ethan looked at her calmly. "You speak, I protect, and the truth will break them." They entered the tunnel. Moving silently through the dim blue light, the silence felt heavy, almost sacred. Lyra's mind replayed every betrayal, every whisper, every cold look she had endured. She had always thought she was unwanted, but now she understood. She was dangerous to those who feared change. At the end of the tunnel, Ethan stopped and placed his hand on the final door. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyra inhaled deeply. Yes. The door slid open, revealing the massive council chamber. 12 high council members sat in tall chairs made of crystal and metal. Their faces twisted in surprise when they saw Lyra standing alive. Behind them stood guards, advisors, and nobles who had chosen to hide instead of support her. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "You left my hall empty." The chamber grew silent. "You planned my removal." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. "You lied to my people, to my father's name, and to my future." One of them finally spoke, Princess Lyra. "You misunderstand." Silence, Ethan said from behind her, his voice sharp as a blade. Every guard in the room tensed. Every noble froze. They had never heard a human command a council. Ethan stepped beside Lyra, calm but unshakable. He looked at the council with cold eyes. "Earth intercepted your messages. We know everything." A ripple of fear spread across the room. Humans were already feared for their strength, but their intelligence was even more terrifying. Lyra lifted her chin. "You tried to break me," she said. "But you only showed me your fear." Her voice echoed through the hall like ringing steel. "You fear a princess who thinks for herself, who stands for her people, who refuses to be controlled." The council leader stood up angrily. "You have no proof of our involvement," he said. Ethan raised his wrist device. The entire chamber lit up with floating holograms, coded messages, encrypted orders, secret discussions, all recorded, all traced, all undeniable. Gasps filled the room. The nobles stepped back in shock. The guards lowered their weapons, unsure whom to obey anymore. Lyra stepped closer to the council table. "You called me weak," she said. "You said I could not rule." She pointed to the holograms. "But I have someone beside me who came from another world just to protect me. Even when my own people would not." Ethan said nothing, but the truth was already clear. A human stood at her side when an entire empire abandoned her. Lyra took one final breath and raised her voice. "I claim my right to the throne." A wave of energy pulsed through the hall as ancient systems recognized her declaration. Lights shifted from white to royal blue. Marking her status, the guards immediately knelt. The nobles followed, even the council members, cornered by the truth, slowly bowed their heads. Princess Lyra stood proud, no longer the lonely girl in an empty hall, but a ruler who had survived betrayal, a leader whose strength came not from power, but from the courage to stand up. She turned toward Ethan, her eyes soft. "You sat beside me when no one else would," she said. "I will never forget that." Ethan gave a small nod, his expression calm. "Humans do not ignore those who deserve respect," he replied. The chamber doors opened, and messengers ran in with urgent news across the galaxy. Empires were already reacting to what happened here. The message was spreading fast. A human protected an alien princess. Earth supported her claim to the throne. The council had fallen. Whispers grew like a rising storm. The princess is stronger than anyone believed, and a human stood with her if Earth becomes her ally. The galaxy will change forever. Lyra walked to the center of the hall with Ethan by her side. She raised her hand, declaring her first order as the new ruler. From this day, truth will guide this empire. Not fear. The hall erupted in cheers, then silence. Everyone watched her. Everyone watched the human beside her. And across the stars, one truth echoed again and again. When a human chooses to stand beside someone, the whole galaxy pays attention. Asterisk.